Welcome to the Morning Energy Show, where we bring you insights from the most influential voices in the solar industry. Today's episode features a special guest who's making waves in the world of digital marketing and social media. Meet Heather Lackey, owner and lead content strategist at Spotlight Social Media. With over 5 years of experience in helping businesses shine online, Heather's background gives her a deep understanding of the digital landscape. She's a pro at crafting strategies that look amazing and deliver real results. Heather collaborates with clients nationwide, offering comprehensive social media management that boosts engagement, builds brand presence, and turns followers into loyal customers. Whether you're in solar or any other industry, Heather has the expertise to elevate your social media game. And now, here to guide our conversation is your host, Jake Hess.
Heather Lackey, all the way from Gilbert, Arizona. How are you doing today?
Doing very well, Jake. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for coming on here. This is an interesting topic I want everyone to kind of hear about.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate your time. I'm excited to do this.
Of course, you're one of the best I know. And I know this because we did a lot of research. And for those that don't know that are listening, we use Heather for all of our social media. So you've probably seen it from the Morning Energy Show. She basically runs that account with us. And from SolarCon, she does a lot of things for us. She's done a lot of things for people in the solar industry. But from what I understand, Heather, you're doing things outside of the solar industry as well. Is that right?
That is right, yes. For a while, I did have quite a plethora of solar industry accounts I was working with and became pretty well versed on solar industry. Not an expert by any means, but I had a lot of those accounts and I truly loved it. But I do work with other niches and industries across the nation, from SolarCon all the way up to, I have an auto detailing company up in Pennsylvania. So different industries.
Wow.
Literally all across the states.
That's pretty amazing. And tell us exactly what it is that you do.
For sure.
For those that don't know. What does social media management entail?
Yeah, and that's such a good question because it truly has a different meaning and can include a lot of different tasks. It is honestly quite a large umbrella, but something that I do that sets me apart a little bit from other competitors and other agencies is I offer what I call done for you packages. So I do all the research, the countless hours of research, script it out, edit it, and upload it for you. I think one of the most valuable things there too is doing that industry research. So no matter what industry you're in, we still target that audience for you. And yeah, I was formerly a teacher. I think that's heavily impacted my career, but I left that to grow this and just always love to share this little nugget is that social media was what grew my career to where I am today. I had no fancy website, never ran any ads, no high dollar marketing materials, just organic social media marketing. And I quickly realized that's what I wanted to be the expert in to grow other businesses.
That's pretty incredible that you can do it for so many. And I do have some tough questions for you coming up. Is that cool?
Ready? I am, yes. It is. You said it before yourself. It can be kind of a polarizing industry. And I think that's a great way to explain it. But there's a really beautiful side to social media. It's a dark side too, but we're going to focus on the good. And I'm ready for those questions.
Yeah, speaking of a polarizing industry to be in, I feel like if you're a social media manager, one of your jobs is obviously to acquire new clients, right? Absolutely. And if they're interested in social media, in my mind, it breaks it into two buckets. Bucket number one is the people that utilize it, use it, and understand it. And then bucket number two is the people, they're probably more executive style, I guess, executive mindset, where they don't necessarily use it themselves, but they know that their business might need it.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Some people, we actually heard Gary Vee say that. Some people will say, hey, I'm not on social media. And that's okay. Your audience is, and that's where you need to be.
When she says she heard Gary Vee say that, it's because she was at SolarCon. She actually helped us that year at SolarCon with a lot of logistics. And Gary Vee was one of our primary speakers. She got to chat with him personally. And from what I understand, Heather, you mingle with a lot of people in the social media world, right?
I do. I've been very blessed to be on podcasts like this, been able to meet people like Gary Vee and other business coaches and learn from them, shadow them. And it's all really molded to where I'm at. And I'm very, very thankful for that.
All right. Well, here is the very first sticky question for you, a little tough one. I hope I throw this at you and you knock it out of the park. How do you convince executives of the value in transitioning from no social media spending to investing thousands in both services and content creation?
Good question. You're right. I'm ready. Okay. So you're right. That can be one of the toughest conversations. And the true answer there is that it's going to depend on the brand's goal. So I always tell them, your social media account is your digital, your business's digital handshake, and you need to be on social media. But the key here, and to convince someone to invest in social media, is by identifying what conversion looks like for them. What do they want to gain from that platform? And conversion looks different for everybody. Some people just want followers and a platform to have, their voice out there. Some people just want the brand visibility and awareness, and others want, like you said, recruits, leads, sales, and they really want to have a specific ROI for that. So from there, once we've tackled that question together, I can directly answer how we're going to target their audience, understand their goal and conversion so they have realistic expectations too. But the biggest thing I'll tell them is that what they're actually investing in is almost themselves. They're investing in freeing up a time-consuming task so that they can continue to build their brand, work on their product, their deliverables, and focus on those executive level tasks and not have to worry about content creation, did we post today, etc. So I take that off of their plate and they can focus on other things. And I think that's the best way to explain it is you're not just investing in social media, you are truly investing into freeing up invaluable time for yourself and letting someone else manage that who is an expert at it.
Well, sure, you're saying things like take it off their plate and allows people to freely manage them, but what makes an executive even decide in the first place whether they should do it or not? You say it's investing in themselves. How so?
Your social media platform is your digital business card. All eyes right now are on at least some form of social media, and you can exponentially, shake more hands by getting in front of people like that and by working with somebody who is an expert in that field. And I know some owners, some executives are pretty well versed in social media, and like you said, some aren't. They're not on it. They don't know how it works. They don't know the platform purposes, how to reach a targeted audience. Social media platforms are global. So if you're just putting out random stuff, you're not going to hit, who you probably want to. So I just continue to tell them that we need to look at what their goal is. And then from there, I can determine what kind of ROI I can provide for them and certain guarantees that we can make together. Because
you talk about ROIs and guarantees with these executives?
I do.
Wow. Okay. Like what kind of guarantees do you give them? Because your service, I would let me back up and say, because in the beginning you said some people just want to utilize it for followers. Some people want to generate revenue. Why would somebody just want social media just for followers and not to convert anything?
Yeah, some people, they just want a platform. Some will use it to monetize. The more followers you get, it can lead to other deals. So there is maybe a long-term ROI to look at. But some people, like comedians, for example, they're just wanting to make people laugh. They want to gain a following. They just put their content out there to show. And I feel like if you are doing it just for followers, there will be some type of underlying, ROI that you want to gain from it, looking to monetize, have brand deals, eventually put out a course and teach others, whatever that looks like. But there are some people who just want to put content out there for people to learn.
Interesting.
And it's very niche specific too. That's where it can get kind of nitty gritty too. And depending on what niche you're in, I can always provide a clear answer for that too. If they just want to have that brand awareness, I can give you a quick example. I worked with a painting company and they wanted to do Instagram. That niche specifically, sometimes, so let's say you want to paint your house, Instagram might not be the first place you go. It could. A lot of people are using it like a search engine, but you might do a Google search, look at the first few ranked companies, things like that. But they still wanted to have at least one social media platform so people could have a portfolio of their work. Just look at what we do, look at how we serve our community, who we work with, the types of jobs we do. And that's what they used it for. They told me, we're not looking to track if anybody comes directly from social media. We just want our work out there. And that's all they were interested in. We just want to get in front of our audience. And then, of course, they're going to hope that it's going to lead to future clientele.
Interesting. So yeah, something, I guess, then how do you make a guarantee on these things or any sort of promise to an ROI? Because you don't know if you're managing an account that is going to be about watching paint dry, painting houses, or if you're going to have an account with the new Optimus robot from Tesla. And I would imagine that one of those is going to get more attention naturally than another. So how do you make a guarantee?
I think the paint drying would get more views. Just kidding. That's funny though. That's a good way to say it. They actually used to put some jokes out there about that's what their account was watching paint dry. So it's funny that you mentioned that, not knowing that.
Right?
Yeah. So I tell my clients up front that I'm very black and white about this. And what I specifically do is organic social media marketing. So there are certain things that I can guarantee, which would be things like increased views, better content because it is scripted, it is researched. I have spent thousands of hours, it feels like, studying viral content. And so I can guarantee things like that. You will get in front of your target audience.
You can guarantee views and growth on an account, even if it's paint drying in a house.
100%.
Wow. All
yes.
Right.
I have a very specific strategic method and almost like a script for myself, a process that I use. And it is, I think that's what helps position me as an expert is I've spent a lot of time into this. I have the proof in the pudding and can show people the types of views that I can get for certain clients in different niches. And there are certain things that you can guarantee. And one of those is that we will reach a more targeted audience for you. We will reach more people for you through the process that I use. I am, though, Jake, I would tell you, I'm always very, very honest with any executive I work with or a business owner, whoever I'm talking to about potentially taking on and being their social media manager, is there are things that I cannot guarantee. I'm not an ad agency where I have those types of processes where I can say, I'm going to bring you 10 new leads a month. I can never guarantee a certain number.
Okay.
I do know that over time, if it's done the right way and we're getting you in front of more people, there's no way that it's not going to convert to something, you know?
So it's the law of numbers.
It can, yeah, it actually is.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense because if I see it or if enough people see it, when someone brings it up and says it, they're going to be like, oh, I actually saw an account that is talking specifically about what you were talking about and maybe refer people, right? So I could see, I'm just playing on. I guess I could see how that works.
Yeah. And it's social media, since we're kind of having that deep discussion about it, like there truly is a gray area. I've had these conversations with people as well that unless there are certain things in place to truly track where all of your clicks, originate from, there is a little bit of a gray area to fine tune exactly where people are coming from. Some businesses will do this via like an intake form. How did you hear about us? And people will say social media, referral, Google search, etc., whatever. Some have what's called a UTM in place, which is an urgent tracking monitor, and that just fine tunes where that original click came from. So for example, if you had one attached to the link on your Instagram page, your analytics will show that that click came from Instagram to your website. So you know where it originated. A lot of people, when they find a business online, they'll typically say something like, oh, I found you through Google. But maybe they saw, for solar, for example, maybe they saw a yard sign first that piqued their interest, went home and Googled the business, looked into it, maybe asked a friend, maybe went and talked to the neighbor. So then like, where's the true origin of that lead? Is it a referral from the neighbor? Do you say the yard sign marketing? The Google search? Did they go to the Instagram page? Like when did they make their decision is typically the option they'll select on that type of form.
That's fair.
So I think, yeah. So I always tell people that a lot of times when I have those conversations, a lot of people, I feel like I have that light bulb moment. They're like, oh, that's true. I guess sometimes it can be a little gray to maybe track the origin of something, but there are certain things that businesses and owners, I'll share these things with them and they can decide if they want to put those in place to truly track it. If they want to know how many products do we sell from Instagram? How many recruits do we get from our TikTok, recruiting page and so forth. So one of the systems I use does it for me. And then some people, they have those things already attached to their landing page. So a lot of times during an onboarding, I will ask them those questions, what's already in place or what do we need to put in place? And then again, it just wraps back into the kind of the beginning of this answer, which was, what are your brand's goals and what do we need to track that translates to conversion for you and their brand?
Perfect. But yes, but I do come back to those guarantees, which is so interesting to me that you can make, considering the polarizing subjects or categories or topics that you could talk about on social media or even illustrate, right? It's interesting to me that we can actually capture what is being measured in a way that someone with your profession can actually make a guarantee. That's awesome. And it probably gives business owners a lot of solace, right?
I think it does. I mean, I don't think they would hire me if I couldn't guarantee something. I'm going to show them a portfolio. We can look at creating better content that's engaging and captivating and hooks your target audience. We need to have increased views to lead to conversion, whether that is gaining followers, bringing in recruits, bringing people into your store, again, depending on their niche. But if I couldn't offer those types of things, I know that I wouldn't be a very good social media manager. I wouldn't be able to probably have my job if I couldn't become the expert and actually guarantee certain types of things like that. But I do always tell them things change on social media. There are a lot of things that impact views for one. And I can guarantee you more views, but it can be a little bit of a roller coaster. For example, right now we're in the middle of the election year. The election campaign is buying up so much ad space. So many posts that are getting promoted and pushed out to a larger audience are politically related, because those are the ones that are getting all the attention right now. And across the board, people have experienced lower views. And it's not that their content has changed, not that they're doing anything wrong, but this happens, excuse me, historically every season whenever there's an election going on. And around the holidays, things trickle off. But there's just a lot of factors in the background that can increase it. But I'm confident with what I do, where I can definitely guarantee them increased views from where they already are.
What an interesting concept. So do other social media managers have these same kind of guarantees, or is that something specific to you because you're so qualified?
I have seen quite a variety, and there are different, like I said earlier, the social media management umbrella is quite large and they all do different things. There are social media managers who will focus on one industry only, and maybe they're an expert in that industry and they focus just on that. And that's what they advertise to their clients, and they focus on maybe recruiting only. Some people have a broader umbrella, which is what I have, which includes content creation, the research and scripting. I also help businesses with their Google My Business profile. A lot of people don't know that's actually considered a social media platform. And so I see different types of guarantees all the time. People will say, hey, if I'm your social media manager, I can guarantee you leads. A lot of times, though, they are in tandem running ads for that company. So if they're doing organic, no ads, just post. I do see quite a few that could offer things like that. We will get your viewership up. We'll bring in more people. They'll say things like, we're in the business of exposure, not closure. We're going to expose you to your broad audience and target your audience. And then once we get those people to you, now it's your job to close that deal, sell that product, have that phone call, onboarding, and so forth.
Yeah. So what does qualify somebody in the field to be an expert in your industry? Like how do we determine who's an expert and who is not? Because I see so many pretty faces that pop up, and I see so many DMs that come in my social media feed that say, hey, consider us for this service. And it's usually around managing social media. So how do we determine who is successful and who is not? And let me add a little something to that, because I'm genuinely interested in this. Those people that I get DMs from, sometimes I go click on them and it shows that the account might have been created, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, but they have 70,000 followers with, cars on there, and it's a younger kid with cameras, and it just looks like he's the type of person that just lives and breathes social media, but it seems like a fake account. How do we know who to trust?
That's a good question. I see this all day long, and I've been almost like what I'll call like a victim of that too. I think I'm going with someone who's credible, one of those gurus, just a credible source, just to find out it's fake or a robot account, thousands of fake followers. There's a lot of that out there. But it's pretty simple, actually. So once you've watched one YouTube video on that topic, you're an expert. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Like, all right. Podcast over.
No,
you guys got it here.
We're having such a serious conversation. I'm just throwing a joke your way. We've all seen those people who go to YouTube University and say they're an expert. I'm just making.
Oh yeah, why would you pay for anything? Go to YouTube. Yeah. You learn it all.
No, I'm teasing. No, in all seriousness, the level of credibility, or I think to deem anyone as an expert, comes with time and experience, and then also the proof in the pudding, their results and their achievement. One of my favorite online business coaches to watch is Cody Sanchez. And she talks a lot about this. She has numerous clips on who can you trust, why should you like, know, and trust somebody, and how can you differentiate. And she always goes back to being results driven. She always asks, are you going to trust somebody who has shown how they do it and shown their results? Or are you going to trust somebody who says they can do this, but they don't show you any results? She talks a lot about this with business, finance, and she's even touched on social media as well. And so to position myself as an expert, if someone is asking, I will go back and talk about my achievements and results in a very humble way, but I want to be able to show them. I'm not just telling you, oh, I can get you more views, Jake. Hire me for SolarCon. I can get you more views. I'm going to show you, hey, I've worked with a solar company and here are the results that I produced. Here's what that company gained. Here's what their investment brought them. And some of those vanity metrics too. They started with 0, now they have 20,000 followers. You're going to be in front of more people. So again, kind of going back to some of those increased viewership guarantees and things like that. But I think providing that just authentic results in achievement. I also position myself as an expert by I produce educational content that anybody can use and apply so they can see for themselves that what I'm offering actually works. I share that for free on my media platforms. And, I think something else that makes me an expert in my field, or that could make anybody an expert in any industry, is being a lifelong learner. Like I've shared with you before, and this, being my friend, I was a teacher. And I've always told my kiddos, it was never fun to be the smartest person in the room. Don't be that person. And I think that we've all heard a variation of that quote. And I think that makes somebody an expert if they are willing to accept that they're not capped at, learning and mastering their craft, that they have room to read, listen, and continue to grow in their expertise.
Well, thank you for bringing this up, because this is a perfect segue into the next question. And hopefully I don't make you eat your words here. Can a hired social media professional truly impact an industry they haven't worked in and genuinely connect with the target audience to drive revenue?
Good question. So, Jake Hess, I am the perfect example for this. Okay. So, like we talked about in the beginning, I've worked with solar companies. I am not an expert in solar. And I've joked with you, though, that I've been in enough rooms now, been to the conferences, been on calls and meetings that I think if my life depended on it, I could maybe make a solar deal happen. But I would never claim to be a solar expert. And any solar executive or owner I've worked with, I've never told them that I am. But I do agree with you. It'd be highly unrealistic for anybody to say that they're an expert in every industry they work with. And so circling back to earlier a little bit, some social media managers have kind of a neat structure, and it can be beneficial. They will target only one niche and they become an expert in that niche, and they only service that specific industry. I actually started my career doing that. Briefly, between leaving teaching and doing this, I was an esthetician for a couple of years. And when I left that, I only helped estheticians. And at first I thought I was only worthy to do that because that was like one of the niches I was an expert in. But then I quickly realized that that was pretty limiting, and I wanted to work with other industries. And I had other people asking me about my services, and I didn't want to turn away business. And so I quickly realized that I wanted to work with others. I wanted to expand. And that's going to bring me to like the true answer here, is that the value comes from like me being an expert at my craft, or just in general, a social media manager being an expert at their craft. They do not have to be an expert in a specific topic or industry to be valuable to that team. So what I'm an expert at is creating types of content that will get you in front of your audience. It's by a certain type of hook, a certain type of call to action. And when I create these types of things for my clients, I have this whole system, this chart and everything categorized. And you know how I am, it's very organized and OCD about it. I pull from my chart, but I leave in a section where they can plug and play basically and insert their expertise. Now, of course, I do research on their industry. I would never work with someone and be like, I have no idea what that is. I don't know, but just read this script. It's truly not like that. I am kind of like putting it in layman's terms right now. It's much more in depth than.
That's right. Dumb it down for me. I need it.
Yeah. So, but I'll tell them, like, I've done, again, countless hours of researching viral videos. Here's this type of hook will absolutely increase your views. You're going to say this hook, and then we're going to, for 30 seconds, talk about X. And then I will tell them.
Sorry, you give people direction on content to create?
I do. I have packages like that, yes, where they get scripted everything. So they get a calendar to show when it's going up. It's always 1 month in advance. And then the business owners will dedicate about 2 or 4 hours a month, I would say. Maybe even less than that. I just want to be broad, though, and not unrealistic. 2 to 4 hours-ish of their month to create content. But that's when the business owner is okay with being on camera and wants to be on camera. I have other packages available if they can't be, they don't want to. Maybe their niche doesn't require it, stuff like that. But most people People buy from people, not brands. They want to see somebody within the brand and a human on there. So a lot of the companies I am working with and have worked with have somebody on camera, and I will script for them what to say. So it'll have their opening hook, the meat and potatoes of the video, and then it will be a targeted call to action.
It's the hardest part, right?
It is one of the hardest parts. I would agree with you. So like for Morning Energy, for example, we don't have faces on there all the time. We are showing the news, supportive clips to show what's going on. But the script I create when I do voiceovers for you, I'm following my framework. And so I don't script them for you though, because you're not the one reading them. And that.
Oh, because you're doing it.
Because I'm doing it, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so, yeah, you'll hear different call to actions at the end. And I think on Morning Energy, our views are pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you about that. And because I want everyone, if you get a chance, to go check out the Morning Energy Show on Instagram. And you put it on Facebook now?
Like it's on Facebook now, yes. Okay. And we're going to start LinkedIn as of November 1st. So that's coming as well if anybody wants to hop on that train too.
Okay, we'll have to hear the strategies on that. But before we do, to separate those out. But before we do, let me ask you on why, if you go look at this account, why we only have like what 2,400 followers on there?
Yes.
Is that right? And when I go look at the insights, and sometimes for everyone listening, sometimes Heather actually creates like a monthly breakdown of how many followers came in, what growth trajectory there was. There's graphs, there's analytics on there. It's a one page, and it's kind of fun to get it, kind of wait for it each month, because it's like, wow, it makes me feel like I had a part to do with it when I didn't. And it feels great. I see where the money is going and I see how it's being invested. But these questions on here that I'm asking are genuine. Heather, why do we only have like 2,400 followers? But when I go click on the insights and see the people that viewed those things, we're reaching like 30,000 views, and only 1% of them is from our followers, and the remaining 99% are non-followers. And the most intriguing part to me, I hope you can answer this is a solar specific page. Like, you have to be in the industry. No one in the house painting business is going to be like, I wonder what's going on the news today on the Morning Energy Show. Right. So we know, and the shares are out of this world. I mean, we get like 400 shares on one single static post. If we combine SolarCon, me, Joe, all of the other channels we have, the Facebook groups we have, this produces at a higher rate and a higher volume with only 2,400 followers. Why is that?
Yeah, good question. I'm going to answer this in general. So not specifically at you with Morning Energy, but just kind of an in general one, because a lot of people look at following to determine the page value and success rate. And what's so interesting, something I learned very, very early on when I was managing my own pages and when I started managing others, is they have a little phrase for it. They call it like looking, not booking. So many people are just looking on social media, and it's not always a true translation to them going from a follower to being a view. Someone could go to our page and watch every single video, but not follow our page. Sometimes I have a question mark, I'm like, why are they watching all of our stories and why are they on our page, but they're not following us? But it just comes from the value that you put out, and that's what's more important. Morning Energy is very unique. We are bringing a lot of value and very important information to our industry, and you've seen it. We've talked about this. Reels typically outperform everything. A lot of metrics with like all of my other clients, it will show their reels get more views than their post. Ours are almost even, and sometimes post, though, are outperforming our reels, and it just comes down to the value that we bring. Now, Morning Energy I'm still going to call it more of like a newer page. I think November's one official year, or this month was like one official year it's been up and running. But really? Every new page, it takes some time. You're getting some foundational stuff down. You're developing your process. Everything's not perfect day one. And so we've been building this brand now, and we've been seeing our views go up a lot more lately because we have developed credibility. We've developed consistency. We have developed reliability. Very much like you said, an account authority. It's just solar related news, and we have a very specific audience. So anybody that wants to be seen by the solar industry needs to be on the Morning Energy Show page, because just as an example, last month we had our highest numbers. We had over 250,000 impressions. Over 256,000 people saw our content. And it's
Oh.
never directly correlated with followers. Obviously, not everybody followed us, and that can be for a lot of different reasons. And I watch those things. I've actually made notes where I'm like, I'm going to start doing more call to actions at the end of the videos that encourage people to follow us. I'm going to start putting things out there that will say things like, share this with someone you think needs to hear this story, and do more engagement type pieces like that. But it's still kind of in its infancy. We're barely a year old, and it's growing, and we're also learning from it as well. We're fine tuning what's working and what's not. We're making changes. We're getting bigger and better. And so followers, like, I know it can be so tempting to just look at that, but I always try to tell people not to focus on that number. It's never a true correlation. I want to give one more example. I recently kind of restarted and rebranded on social media. And for a while, my page, honestly, my own page got a little bit stagnant. I wasn't using it as much. I wasn't putting as much work content on it, and I wasn't gaining anything from it. And it became it was just there. So I rebranded, started over, started a new account, and I have like more clientele and interest coming in from that account that has barely 500 followers right now than my old page that had over 5,000. And so you never know who's going to see your content. You could have 10 loyal followers and they all 10 buy your product and you make money, than someone who has 10,000 and they have low engagement. So I hope that answers your question. It's one of those where there's not a perfect
It does.
answer.
I mean, it kind of does. Like, so we have two sides of the spectrum. Those people that DM me, right? And then they have 70,000 followers and I can tell it's a new account. And then I have our side of the spectrum. We have 2,300 followers and thousands upon thousands of views. We reached 256,000 different people from our post with 2,300 followers. Like, how, I guess, why does that happen? And what are the guarantees that you have to make around followers? Are they around activity? What is it specifically with you that you guarantee your clients?
Sure. So it happens depending on what the purpose of your post is. There's 5 pillars that I go by, and I can circle back to them in just a moment. But there's 2 other key things I focus on, and that is to attract and to nurture. And when you're starting out with a newer page, like Morning Energy being under a year or less, your goal at that time is to create what's called, one of the pillars is called the community content. And you want to create content that your new followers will share with their community. And that's how you get super high impressions, because you're getting it shared by your community. They're kind of doing some of the work for you. You want people to share that post. Even something simple like memes. Memes do well with this. They're funny. They're relatable. What do we do with them? We share them to someone that we think would relate to it. Hey, this reminds me of you. Oh, remember when we did this? Something, it's relatable. So the content we're putting out is in that community pillar, and it's going to be shared by our audience to their audience. And then hopefully that domino effect keeps happening. And that's where you get the imbalance towards the beginning. You're getting more impressions and more views because of how it's being shared. Eventually you'll start to see a better correlation, because eventually people see it enough. They're going to come over and see the value you're bringing and start following you and be an engaged follower with you. So when it's newer though, we're putting out specific type of content that is meant to only attract. We want to get eyes on our page, and we want to start building up our page and gaining followers. Down the road, the other side of that is nurture. You want to nurture who is there and supporting you, but still focus on attracting a new audience as well.
Based on these different things that you can view and see, like the different followers or the different engagement, the different impressions, how do you generate any type of guarantee? What specifically is your guarantee to clients?
Yeah. So mine is always, I use the term increased views. Instagram actually changed it recently. They have like 3 different categories where it's impressions, there's views, and then accounts reached. And they all mean like different little things, but I guarantee that your views will go up. So let's say, I'll just use SolarCon as an example. Let's say I started with SolarCon and you were reaching 5,000 people a month. We went through your historic analytics and you're reaching 5,000 people a month. I will know that through creating the content, like using my framework and the way that I do things, that we're going to increase that. I can never guarantee an exact amount, but I know that we can increase it because we're going to be doing something new and applying a different type of content strategy.
But what about, like, so those hashtags are one of the tools and assets that people use in order to engage new audiences, right?
Yes.
So let's take SolarCon, for example, like you said, and you can increase the views. If I'm reaching 5,000 with the content created, how do you expand that? What's to stop someone that's giving a guarantee, such as yourself, from putting hashtags on there that are not relevant to my product or to my client base. For example, horse races or kids toys, like hashtag kids toys, just to get those views up. What's to prevent that?
I see what you're saying. That's a good question. No one has ever asked me that before. I like that question. I would hope that you have an ethical social media manager who is not doing unethical ways to reach audiences that will not be some form of ROI or conversion for you, a follower or someone who is an attendee and buying a ticket. I'm going to be honest. I don't think there is a way to prevent that until it actually happens and you catch it. I would hope that they're not doing that. And I guess you could look at previous accounts they've worked with and look at what their strategy is in place to make sure they're not doing things unethically. Or I've seen some people, they'll have groups where they'll get a new client and post it in a group and everybody will go follow it, but they're never going to lead to anything. They're a follower now, but they're not going to buy it. They call them like follow circles and stuff. So that could come on the business owner side by doing some research to make sure that ask your social media manager, whoever you're working with, what their content strategy is. Like, how are you going to get me in front of other people? Like I have a hashtag strategy that I use, and you will see on any post I've done with you or any other client, the painting client, none of them are ever going to be like what you just said, horse racing or other popular things like Stanley Cups or like, I don't know, seasonal related or holiday related right now, like just to get views on there.
Was the other.
Kids' toys. There we go.
Kids' toys.
I said my toy, my Stanley Cup. That's my adult toy I carry around. But I hope that answers that question too.
Yeah, it definitely does. I guess you just do your research and make sure that you're hiring someone that is that has a good ethics, and that's a lesson I probably should have learned 20 years ago, right?
Now, I would honestly, just knowing that someone that has a strategy in place, posting every day is not a strategy. Just posting in general is not a strategy. You have to have a strategy in place, and you have to have that conversation with your social media manager or your marketing team. The goals and the definition of conversion has to be very, very clear. And then you need to have a social media manager who has a strategy in place that can tell you exactly how they're going to reach new people. And that's one of the ones I named earlier was I tell them about we're going to have content that is called community content. And the only goal of that is to be reshared. And that's how we're going to reach new people. And there's other pillars as well, but just a quick example.
So I'm a super busy individual, and I do care about the way that my brand looks. It's very important to me, right? I spent a lot of time with graphic designers and such and come up with templates and then handed those off to you. So my question is, when these CEOs, when you're talking with these executives, and for everyone listening, it's not just executives. That's just my experience with her. And so I'm using that. You do work with other individuals other than just executives, right?
Absolutely. I've done some personal brands, public speakers, mom and pop shops, executive level corporations. Yeah, quite a wide variety.
Speaking from bias here.
And again, I'm an expert in every single one of those. I'm just kidding.
So when you're talking with them, for me, I'm super busy. I do love my brand, and I spend time creating, but I'm super busy, and I don't necessarily want to sit and chat with a social media manager expert for hours and hours on end, figuring out what the strategy is and how to. I want to just hire them and almost automatically allow them to know what to do and tell me what to do. For anyone that's worked with me, like yourself, everyone knows that one of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs says, "We hire smart people to tell us what to do. We don't hire them to tell them what to do." And that was not a straight quote. That was
yes, I've heard you say that.
Okay, so what is the line when we're looking at a social media manager? How do you present yourself to an executive to save their time and allow them to understand that you get their mission?
I see.
How much time do you need with an executive? If I decided, hey, you know what, I heard this, I'm ready to go. I do want my brand to be known on social media. I've been thinking about it. How much time do you need of mine in order to get this product moving and jamming?
I would say where I'm at today, and I want to disclose, like I've been doing this for over 5 years now, so I have a good process in place. So I'm speaking very much, to my own brand and how I run things. I would say about an hour is what I need from you up front. And I'm very tactile with that hour too, because I do respect your time. I do know how busy you are. So if you're taking the time, I know you're serious about it. We're going to be very tactile with that hour meeting. And I already have a questionnaire in place, questions. And I want to know right up front what your goal is. I'm already going to do research before we talk. We've already planned this call. So there's going to be other stuff going on in the background. I'm going to come in understanding your brand. I'm going to probably already have some form of communication with you to get that meeting in place. Maybe not though, maybe an executive assistant sets it up or something, but I will do a deep dive into what I need. And then I will come to you and ask very specific questions. The content style you like what's in place and what's working, and what are you wanting to change? If it's brand new, what's your vision? And I also want to know, and I guess a common theme now in this episode today is your goal and what your definition of conversion is. Because like I said in the beginning, it is different for every single person. And that has to be one of the most clear things. If you're not looking to recruit, I'm not going to waste my time making recruiting style scripted videos for you. If you're looking to gain leads and you're talking about running ads and stuff, we need to have that conversation up front. So very tactile time, about an hour. And then from there, it's plug and play. I have everything in place. Awesome. And this goes back to, I don't have to be an expert on your topic. I will become very well versed in it. I will have done my research on it, but I'm going to come to you with a social media strategy that I know works. And I do want to say real quick, this isn't exactly what you asked me, but I do want to add that social media is always changing. And so I don't want it to sound like it's super cookie cutter and everybody is getting the exact same thing from me. This is very much researched and tailored to the brand's needs. You're going to take a form, will ask you, what style of content do you like? And what are you looking to gain from your page? Lots of different questions. So it's very custom. Can there be similarities and call to actions and stuff? Absolutely. But trends change. What people respond to changes. And that's something I do is keep up with that to make sure we're still keeping up with the times is the best way to say it. And that you're not getting just dumping you a cookie cutter package.
I ended up going to a social media conference. It took me, I think it was $1,200 to go in 3 days. And in that time, I learned one single thing, that I'm not going to do all of that work.
Right. A good takeaway.
But they also said another thing that's pretty intriguing to me. I mean, there was a lot of stuff for me to realize that I'm not going to do all of that because it's highly time consuming. You do need to dedicate. It's a profession. It truly is. If you want to hit the higher levels, it is truly a profession. And although we think we can do it, if you're serious about it, it's just like anything else. You don't tell a doctor, hey, I could go learn that from YouTube, right? In an hour. It's going to take a lot longer. And sure, people can dedicate themselves to a profession on YouTube and learn it. I don't have that kind of time because I have my passion, what I'm focused on doing, right? So I was there long enough to realize and know that I didn't want to run it myself. And one of the things that scared me the most was that these social media platforms publicly advertise and post how they're going to favor the algorithms, how they're going to favor certain products that are put out. For example, earlier you mentioned stories and reels and posts, and Instagram will literally come out and say, this time around, we're going to favor reels more often, right? How frequently does that change between all of the different platforms?
Ooh, a lot. And you could go today and search that, a variation of that question. You will see a lot of people talking about that a lot of people are getting upset with how much and how often the platforms are changing. And also how much they're not staying true to kind of their original uniqueness. For example, Instagram originally was supposed to be this cool portfolio of your photos. Remember the archaic days, the old Instagram icon, the kind of tan camera, but it was meant to just be portfolio of your photos. YouTube was that long form educational content. TikTok took over the world 3 or 4 years ago, and everybody started realizing how powerful short form content was. So then Instagram added reels, YouTube added shorts, etc. TikTok now sees how impactful long form content is, especially on YouTube. Now you can do a 10-minute TikTok video. So they're all blending and offering the same stuff now. And people are talking about that. They are constantly changing and they're constantly putting a focus on something different. Some people say it's almost like experimental. Let's emphasize shares because the goal, no matter what they're impacting on or what they're focusing on, is they just want people to be on their platform for as long as possible. That's what they want. They want the duration. Once Jake Hess gets on his phone and he's on Instagram, we don't want him to leave Instagram. So we're going to offer him everything to stay on our platform. You can shop on there now. You can watch videos. You can look at pictures. You can DM your friends. I don't know if you know this in DMs now. What's that?
They get me good sometimes. I'm on there sometimes for a little bit. I get lost a little bit sometimes.
I do too. I will tell you with my job, I have had a couple of days where I'm like, oh my gosh, focus. Like you get distracted. So just being honest. But I don't know if you know this, you can actually play games now with your followers in your DMs. They have like 2 games you can start, and yeah, we could like log on later and start a chat and we can play a game back and forth. It's crazy, but they just want you to stay on their platform. So they start changing these different things they're putting value on. You know, if you're creating content that's being widely shared, that's obviously valuable content. It's obviously high quality content. We're going to push you out to more people. Then they'll change their definition of what quality and value looks like. Actually, if it's quality content, people are going to save it because they want to go back and look at it later. So now they're going to come out and say, actually, saves is what is the most important metric right now. And a lot of people are calling out I'll use Instagram as my example, the creators page. People who work for Instagram put out videos about this. You know, hey guys, right now we're really focused on shares. Again, valuable content that's going to be shared. People are going to want to show other people. And people are stitching or showing that video on their own page and saying like, why do these things keep changing? We just put so much focus on getting people to save our content. And now you're putting a metric that's heavier weighted, and now we have to pivot. It happens all the time. And sometimes it almost feels like daily. I see all these different conflicting things. Instagram recently was actually in headline news. I'm talking like Fox, CBS News, for putting out conflicting information and like confusing their viewers and influencers. One post said something. I'm trying to remember the topic. I just remember this being in the news. One post said one thing and the next post said something else, and they were contradictory. And so people were like,
so how do you navigate those waters?
What can I actually do? Yeah. Honestly, it's going back to being a good professional. And if you want to call yourself an expert, you have to always be learning. So I'm always reading and listening to those things to see what is currently going on and being able to adapt. I know last year and even right now, that was a very important topic in the solar industry, was being able to adapt with these changes that it was hit with. Social media, same thing. I think any industry is like that, but you just have to adapt. And honestly, what they say goes. If that's what they're looking at, that's what they're going to do. And that's what myself or any other professional in a similar situation has to adapt to.
Sure. I have 2 spicy questions for you. Spicy.
Okay.
Should we drink
some water real quick before these spicy ones?
Do whatever you need. So one of the questions is, and I don't want to get you in hot water here, but what are the client attributes that you do not want to work with, or what is the wrong expectation to have when you're coming into this? Or if I'm an executive coming into this or someone hiring you, what do we need to avoid when talking with any social media manager, or what expectations should we temper ourselves with? And what are the worst qualities of someone that you have worked with? Don't be specific, just in general, because we need to know, some people need to know where that line is with social media management.
Sure. So I will answer the second one first. The most difficult situations I've encountered, and I do want to say I've been very blessed to have incredible clientele. I'm very blessed, work with some incredible people out there. The most difficult situations I've been in, though, is just lack of communication. If I need certain things to understand your brand or your goal better, or if we are working on a piece of content, whatever that might be that requires communication, if that is lacking, then it's going to be tough to hit our goals, or we're going to hit them at a slower rate if we're not communicating and we're not on the same page. I need to be able to firmly understand what you want from me, and then vice versa, very clearly, lay out what I'm expecting from a client. And communication's always been the one thing that has caused issues in the past. It's very hard to create content for somebody who won't respond to your text or your calls, or they miss their Zoom meetings or something like that, or to set new goals, or to understand what they're doing in their business if there's just no communication. And that's the answer for me too, because I do work with a lot of people and I work remote. I'm not in an office all the time with them, just firsthand taking everything in. So I do rely very heavily on communicating some way, and we'll set that up. Some business owners, we text back and forth. They're cool with that. You and I do that sometimes. Some, they need that one monthly meeting that is 30 minutes precisely, and so I rely on that communication and that time with them. So communication is the biggest one for me. I think everybody I've worked with too, I used to think that change was kind of the most scary. Some people didn't want to change, and it would be hard to explain and get them on board with maybe why we're pivoting or should try new things. But over time, with how much social media has grown and how well adapted it is, that is no longer an issue. People like to experiment. They want to try new things. They want to do what's going viral because they want their brand to be seen for whatever goal they have.
I see.
And yeah, I was able to be a really good communicator with them. And hopefully, like you said, they're going to understand you're very busy and they're not going to take a lot of your time, and that if they have a question for you, it's important and needs to be discussed. So yeah, communication.
Second spicy question.
Why am I nervous? Because you're getting an example out.
My question to you is, I've been on one of those times I got lost in the rabbit holes of social media. I came across someone about prompting ChatGPT. I know AI comes up a lot, especially with social media, and they say that AI is going to kill any social media management, content creation company. Eventually, it will make them obsolete. And I know that this is probably a highly spicy question. With AI generating countless images and strategies daily, why does human input still matter? Doesn't the best AI prompt simply win? Isn't it just that the more creative you are with this AI prompt, it's going to spit out a much more engaging piece of content for your own specific niche, industry, and market?
You are hitting me with the good ones. All right. Okay, Jake, yes. ChatGPT is a cool resource. I use it sometimes, but nothing outperforms human presence. And I'm going to answer this like with an answer and also some examples. So I'm going to start with an example. Recently, a creator on Instagram polled the general public and asked them, we're going to show you 2 different profiles, and we just simply want you to tell us which one you like more just from that first impression. A couple scrolls, a couple clicks. They got like 30 seconds to look at it. One page was all AI generated stuff. I don't know if they used prompts to create that, but it was all AI generated images, things like that. You could even tell the captions were AI generated, just the verbiage. The other one was a lot of UGC content, which is user generated content, actual humans, people you like, know, and trust, or again, general public people using the product, posting about it, the owner on there discussing it, etc. Every single person they polled chose that human presence account. Also, pages like, or not pages, platforms like TikTok, Instagram, etc., have also put out information that shares human presence content is outperforming anything that's AI generated. And you're right, we heard it at SolarCon too. Brandon Hall said that AI is not going to replace the jobs, but those who know how to use AI will be the ones to do that in the long run. And the reason people need a human is because people want connection. They want authenticity. They want real. And, you know, you referred to the Tesla robots earlier and stuff. I think eventually we're probably going to see stuff like that in content. But I think at the end of the day, again, speaking very much in general, people want to buy from people. If you're promoting a product, I like, know, and trust you, I'm probably going to take your word. Oh, look, Jake's recommending this wax for surfboards. He's an avid surfer. I actually know Jake. I'm going to trust him. If there's a Tesla robot or an AI generated human who is reading a script, had they used that product? Do they actually like it? Does it work? What's the proof? What's the realness there? So again, like I said earlier, people buy from people, not brands. And then while AI can generate these ideas, like they can tell you really good hooks, they can tell you call to actions to use, they can spit out a content calendar for you. It's pretty crazy. At the end of the day, I'm asking you a question now. Let's say you go through that prompt that you mentioned, or anybody you said can really fine tune the prompt, give me this, give me that. Let's say it produces everything for you that you want. When are you going to sit down and kind of analyze what it gave you? When are you going to create the content? When are you going to edit it? And then maybe you know or not yet, but when are you going to research and know which platform to put it on and when?
I will ask ChatGPT when.
Yeah.
No, to actually go through it, probably not going to do that.
Yeah.
By probably mean I won't do that. I would probably hire somebody to do that. That's a fair point. Well, I guess, let me counter that because I'm being a hypocrite here because I hired you to do it. But I do want to counter for the sake of this audience and probably myself.
Okay.
Earlier, you said that one of the main reasons that we would want to build a platform is to get viewers. If the AI generated content is just doing that, then and we're getting the viewers along with it, then what's the point of having it be relatable content?
That is a good question. And that's honestly something that I look into sometimes as well, because AI still is this new thing we're all experiencing, and really all firsthand seeing how impactful it's going to be or what they're going to be able to do. But at the end of the day, I would always say let AI assist with creating certain things. But at the end of the day, we're never going to be able to replace you. Like, you are your brand, not these AI generated people or images. They might eventually work really well in tandem, and you can use them to your benefit in certain ways, but nobody can replace you and the actual humans behind it. So having someone take that off of your plate, and you're not having to invest all the time to create everything that it spit out for you. Also, some people are even kind of countering that question with, sometimes it's not giving the correct info. I've seen some pages that are like, they put out AI generated info and then it gets fact checked and it gets taken down. There's still errors or things that are getting ironed out.
I've seen that.
Also, let's say you have all AI generated stuff, and I'm not saying it can't make an impact. The AI can produce some pretty cool things and really shave off time and increase your productivity, etc. But YouTube, for example, was actually having a big issue recently with, you have to mark now if something is AI generated, and they actually had that feature on Instagram now as well, that you have to, or you're supposed to. There's no way, I guess, they can really force your hand. Maybe one day they will ban your account or something if you're not marking your stuff as AI, but they are starting to put these things in place so people can understand what's real and what's not. But people were having AI bots increase views and put out content. And because these platforms already have things in place to like mark that stuff as spam, robot accounts, fake followers, people using AI produced stuff were getting their accounts banned, deleted, shadow banned, etc., because they were using AI, and it was flagging it as a robot. It was flagging it as spam. So a lot of people now are like, it can produce some stuff for you, but I wouldn't use it because it's not going to, they haven't developed it that far yet to where it's not marking it that way. And not flagging it, I should say.
All right, this is totally bringing up an interesting topic for me, because earlier today I was messaging in Instagram with David Meltzer, and he's come and spoke with us before.
I'm reading his book right now.
Oh, are you?
Connect to Goodness? Yes.
And I was messaging him like, hey, thanks for coming to the conference, stuff like that. And then I randomly clicked something and it said AI turned off, and it ended the conversation. It was AI talking to me. I didn't know that you could do that in messages as well. But a little prompt came up and said AI conversation ended or something like that. Have you heard of that?
Interesting. Yes, I don't know. So there are some in Instagram you can use. You can set up most asked questions and have automated responses set up to those. A lot of people will do that, like a doctor's office, like, do you want to schedule an appointment? Like really basic stuff. But there are third-party platforms that now integrate with social media platforms to have an AI bot or some type of platform run that communication for you up to a certain extent. What's it called? Like Uber Eats and grocery shopping apps and stuff. They have those in place where you talk with something AI generated first before you get to a customer representative. But that's interesting. I wonder if his was the pre-set up questions, but it sounds like your conversation was pretty specific to where it wouldn't be.
It was.
Preset.
We'll have to explore that a little bit later. But to bring it back to the point of talking about that and the question that I asked you, yeah, you're right. I genuinely would rather be communicating with somebody that is genuine human being rather than AI. The moment I learned that was happening, I just lost interest like immediately. A switch inside of me turned off.
Yeah.
And I just realized that during this conversation. Thank you.
No problem.
Always learning from Heather. All right. So why wouldn't a company just hire an in-house employee to create all of their content? Why would they hire a third party?
Good question. I've seen both of these, so I can kind of give a comparative answer here. And to be honest with you, they can. We see it all the time. People that work the front desk or maybe an assistant of some form are the ones posting on the platforms. But what I've learned in time is that if you're not working with someone who's an expert at that craft, using your social media beneficially, you're going to likely reach very little to no people or be very slow with making progress in reaching your goals. If you have hired someone who knows what they're doing and really is there with purpose and intent, you're going to reach those goals a lot faster. They're going to be experts in that craft. Most of the time, if they're outsourcing it to somebody, again, an assistant, or I've worked with a couple places where before I came in, the front desk, administrative side of things were the ones posting. And they were like, we don't know what we're doing. We just throw up a post. We made a simple Canva graphic, give us a call today, But if you really want purposeful content, targeted content, having somebody there that actually is an expert in social media or an expert content creator who can really create like storytelling content, revenue generating content, etc., you're going to reach your goals a lot faster. And that's where it can be beneficial. I've had a couple of conversations with some businesses though, where they do that in the beginning because that's the only access they have at that time. And I think that's okay. We all start somewhere, right? Some people can't have a social media manager yet. And so that's one reason I like putting educational content out, is so that small businesses who maybe can't yet, or they're just starting out. That was my story. I could not hire a social media manager. I could not invest into ads or pay to have a website. And so I started to learn social media and started posting for myself until eventually could get more of a team to help out.
When's a good time for people to make that transition or jump
to hiring a social media manager? Honestly, a lot of times the conversations I've had is whenever they are expanding their goals. So they have more revenue coming in so they can hire someone to focus on that piece of their business. And they want to free up that time to keep building their brand. They want to distribute that and outsource that task and no longer have, you don't want to have somebody else in-house doing it and you're taking away from their main job either. You've most likely hired them, like you said, to work on something that you don't want to work on. Not that you don't know how, but you don't want to invest your time there. So they're doing that. You don't want to give them something they're not super familiar with. So once they have the capital to do so, they have the goals and they want to invest into it. I think that that moment will be very clear for them that they want to bring somebody else on so they can say, okay, that's taken care of. I am focusing on improving our product, improving our brand, being there for my own company, and so forth.
So good. All right. So if you were to give advice to anyone out there that's going to search for a social media manager, obviously they're going to go to you first. But if if you're booked, if you're completely booked, what would be your advice on finding the appropriate social media manager for their brand, product, and content?
Cool. I think, like anything, any decision we make, a lot of times we do some research, especially if we're investing into something, because we don't want to throw our money in the wind. Do research and look at the accounts that they've worked with, whether you ask them for a list or maybe they're advertising it on their own page, their website, etc. Look at their portfolio. What type of content do they produce? Make sure you align with it. What resources are they using to produce content? A lot of people will share these things so that again, that it's authentic, it's ethical, it's targeted. It's not, hey, you can pay me to post for you and I just post random things. And have a conversation with them. If you're not at that point of having a conversation yet, just really do some research, look at the content, go to the other business pages they work with and look at those results, look at their views, look at the engagement. Again, the style of content is very important. Some people like that podcast talking head style. Some people only create graphics. Style is a huge one. And some social media managers can tailor it to meet what the business wants. Some have a very specific thing, and that's okay. Some people just stay in their lane, right? This is what I make. If you want to work with me and do this, this is what I do. If you're looking for something else, then I'm probably not the best fit. I've had those conversations before being to where I am now. There were certain things that I just wasn't doing yet. And I had to tell people that I unfortunately won't be the right fit. I don't offer that at this time. So I would definitely look at style. Some people, like I said, I was saying only do graphics. So see if they do the content creation you like, look at their results, ask them for examples. That's really one of the best ways to make that decision. Really do your homework. Yeah.
That's fair. All right. So you've given us some advice. I will say when I went to that conference, there was an interesting topic that went up that It was a woman that did Microsoft's Instagram or social media accounts, and
Wow.
had gotten Microsoft, I believe, up into the 20 million range.
Okay.
But her own specific account had 1,200 followers. It was just her friends and family and close, maybe some fan here and there. But it's so interesting to me that a company like Microsoft that has now 20 million followers went to someone with 1,200 accounts. It's not followers, and I agree with you. It's not followers. It's not followers. It's not followers. Don't judge success off of follows. It's wild. Last question for you. TikTok, you mentioned it earlier in this interview. You said that TikTok has just come and taken the social media industry by storm. It's kind of the one that everyone's operating on now. At this conference I keep speaking about, they asked a question. Say, raise your hand if you use Google. And a bunch of us raised our hands, and then raise your hand if you use TikTok. I promise you, it was so off balance. It was such a shock to me. It was a paradigm shift because I'm 41 years old, and maybe I'm old now. I refuse to believe it, but no, but it was so crazy because I was one of probably 30 people in what felt like a couple thousand. It was massive.
Okay.
There was not a lot. And
I left their hand up for
no,
using.
they raised our hand for using Google to do a Google search, like recipe for tacos.
Oh,
Raise
okay.
our hand. Because when they Googled recipe for tacos, first of all, there was 5 sponsored things, and it fully says sponsored. And then you scroll down and you finally click one and that you like. Okay, I clicked that one. And then I went and I had to scroll through a whole bunch of stuff just to get to the recipe. And then a pop-up thing happened. And then they said, okay, now how many of you use TikTok as Google? And I promise you, that entire conference, boom, all the hands went up and they did the same search, recipe for tacos in TikTok. And the experience was so different. There was no ads. There was no like scrolling through things to get to it and pop up. It was literally just a person passionate about making tacos, making it in front of you, recipe that clear, cut, and simple within 30 seconds, same exact recipe, and also showed how to do it. And I didn't have to click on YouTube and like get out of the window I was on. It's just so great. So I've started using it more frequently, and I'm seeing the power in it. But with that kind of power also comes an added expense. Is that correct?
Yes.
TikTok is different than your other platforms. How do you see it, and what does it mean for social media managers to work on TikTok versus the others?
Sure. Yeah, it is a powerhouse, and you just remind me of the quote, with great power comes great responsibility. It is, what was that? Was that Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
Okay, I didn't want to say the wrong one. I was like, I don't know why it doesn't feel right. Yeah. So it is very powerful, and it's social media. It's something, if you ask the general public something about social media, they're typically going to think probably Instagram, TikTok, Facebook would be the top 3 platforms that maybe come to mind first. But TikTok probably is number 1 right now. They do have the largest demographic variety. So you just joked that you were old, but they have the widest one, 18 to 65, which is really cool. Other ones have more specified ones, 25 to 45, etc. But they have really honed in on something that I think is super unique. And I look at it through being an educator before, that 87%, and I haven't looked at this statistic in like a year, so forgive me if it's changed, but as of last year, 87% of people identify as visual learners. There's a lot of other learning modalities, but most people are visual learners, and that's why they like this stuff. They want short form content. Everybody also, we have short attention spans. We want convenience. We want quick. Like you said, we don't want to read the essay before the recipe and see all the sponsorships and the ads and the affiliate links and everything. So they have fine-tuned, as I mentioned, they are the masters of short form content creation, and they offer so many things within their platform, again, so you stay on it. They want you to create the content in TikTok. They want you to stay on it. And it's a very time-consuming task for a social media manager because it's all video content. Yes, you can put together a slideshow of images, but most of the time it is creating video content, which is more time-consuming. So I know with some of my offerings, I categorize TikTok separately because that is such a big task. And especially if a company wants to post every single day, that's 30 videos, not a couple pictures sprinkled in that take less time to edit, etc. So, but it's so powerful. They are very smart with the way they do ads. They're also very targeted. They have one of the most expensive ad options and everything, but they're very targeted. They're very effective. But hitting that short form content and knowing that that's what people want, that's where everybody's at. Like you said, it's its own search engine at this point. And it's wild that I don't know if the statistics actually show if it's like beat Google at this point, but I know for a while it was very close that more people were searching things on TikTok.
I refuse to use Google now.
You said, yeah.
I refuse to use Google. And it's as simple as this. When you're scrolling through social media, as you said earlier in this interview, you said, I've noticed a lot of people have, or even yourself, have followed an account and looked at the content because it's giving educational value. It's giving value to people, right? Mm-hmm. And you might not even follow it. You might not follow it, and it's still popping up every single day because it's offering value that you like. And I've conditioned my TikTok algorithms to that degree.
Yeah.
I've understood the concept that the algorithms will educate me or show me the things that I would like to see. And so if I want to be educated on something, I'll simply search it and engage with it. And there it is for me, as long as I'm interested in that subject and topic. I'll tell you right now, I was in the grocery store and I paid with cash, and coins came out. And then something popped in my head, some random thought back when I was a little kid or who knows where, that said, so many people spend coins and you could be holding one worth millions and no one knows it, right? And so I thought, interesting. Okay. I looked on TikTok at the coins that I had in my hand to see if any of them were, just by random chance. But it kept coming up and showing, and I kept showing interest. And now, today, after about a month, I would consider myself somewhat of an expert in coins, the most random thing. So anytime I get change, I can look at it now. And it's not like I want to make it a career, a job, or a hobby. It's that when someone puts something in my hand that is change, I now have a fun thing to do with that rather than put it in my pocket and be annoyed that it's jiggling in there. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, that's really neat. And isn't it crazy how you watch a couple of videos on a topic and before you know it, that your feed is full of that? And most of the time it's a good thing. I've had a couple of situations where I've accidentally clicked something and then it's like always on my feed. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in this. But they do. It's very targeted.
So so TikTok, you're saying it's more complex and it's an additional expense.
Yes.
I would say for SolarCon itself, and I guess where's the brand on that? Because my industry, the solar industry, I actually see more people on Instagram and Facebook than I do on TikTok. What do you do if people are spending money on one of these platforms and it's not converting as well as others, but they've already purchased a package? What do you do with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the best things is looking at the numbers together. So I'm totally fine with being honest with somebody. If it's not converting, I think the first thing we would look at would be changing up the content to see if there's something else we can do. Maybe experiment a little bit, try some new things. And if it's still not reaching our target goal, then we need to just look at the platform purpose, and maybe a different platform would be beneficial. So TikTok is not always the answer. And again, the general public is going to think, oh, I want to be on social media. I want to hire a manager, and we're going to be on most likely TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, maybe X, something like that. But there are other platforms out there that might not, that might be better for your purpose and your goal. LinkedIn is really powerful. Having a Google My Business profile is really powerful. That was what I mentioned earlier, that a lot of people don't really think of as a social media platform, but it is one of Google's social media platforms. It was actually supposed to be a bigger thing with Google Plus, and that was going to be Google's, hat in the, or towel in the ring, or what's hat in the ring, or whatever the quote is. It just didn't take off like they really wanted it to, though. But it is a social media platform, and I can actually give you an example of this. We didn't get going on a social one. I have to pull it out, but I had a tow truck company contact me one time, and they wanted to be on social media, but let's say you and I are going to grab lunch. We have a flat tire. I think the last thing we're going to do is go to Instagram to find a tow truck, right? Or we're not going to go ask on Facebook, can anybody recommend a tow truck company?
Yeah.
We're going to go to Google probably, or the maps, and look at the first or second option and call whoever we can to come help us. And so whenever they're talking about social media, they kept referencing Instagram, things like that. And not that they can't use it, but I talked to them. I was like, with your specific niche, my professional input would be to consider other platforms. And we talked about Google My Business page. You can post on it like an Instagram, photos, updates, promos, etc., short video clips, and it has all your contact information. You can link your website, etc. That's one of the ones I offer to clients if they need that. So looking at the platform purpose is what's going to really determine whether or not it's working for us or not. TikTok is great for reach, and it has started to shift lately, and it's great for integrations that can produce sales. They have the TikTok shop now. Shopify integrated with TikTok, so they're expanding and doing more things. But in the beginning, it was just an entertainment platform. It was just for reach. And I think back then, it would have been very hard for me to guarantee any other conversion besides views. You're definitely going to get people on your eyes on your content there. Your reach is going to increase, but it's mainly for entertainment. People just want to watch it. They're just mindlessly scrolling. And so we would look at something like that. But gosh, if it ever came to it, and if it just wasn't producing for somebody, I would say, okay, we need to evaluate if this platform is effective for us or not, and look at potentially using another one if we're not already utilizing it, or investing more into a different platform, and then go from there.
Just shifting strategies all around, not just even on social media, but with the direction that you're going to take social media in. That's pretty cool. Or the content created versus the direction you take it in.
Yeah.
Heather, if people want to get a hold of you, what is the very best way for them to do that? I think I can have a sneaky suspicion on what you're going to give us here.
Yes. So they need to Google, and I'm just saying, they can find me on, you guessed it, social media. That's one of the best ways, and that's where a lot of my conversations start lately. I have, like I said earlier, I recently kind of rebranded and did some different things, and I have a specific page that I have just for business.
Yeah, what's your Instagram account handle?
Yeah, so I have it's my personal brand, so where I put my educational content. This is where I do all things social media. It's called Your Social Media Bestie. And I wanted to position myself. I just wanted to have a fun, trendy ring to it, but I want to be everybody's social media best friend. I would like to be that one go-to page where they can go and learn. I do some comical stuff too, just for a laugh and just for variety and fun. But to be that account authority in the social media space, that they know if I go to her page, this is my social media best friend. You know, a lot of times when we're in a pickle or something, we ask our best friend, or maybe more females use the term bestie, but we ask someone we trust, you know, for information, for advice. And I want to be that person for those on social media who are exploring it, or maybe want to improve, try new things, etc. So Your Social Media Bestie. And then my personal page is just my first and last name, Heather Lackey Official. They can reach out there too if they'd like. It was my former work page, and so I do get some activity there still as well. I still don't have a website to this day, not even a landing page. And to be honest, that might change soon just for some stuff I'm working on. But I want to maintain to that, like the true roots of my story, where
the integrity
I never
of social media.
Yes, the power of social media. You don't have to go to a website and fill out a form and all those things. I've done all of my business via social media and just phone conversations.
That's incredible. Heather, thank you so much for hopping on here. It's been a great time talking with you and educating everybody on the ins and outs of hiring a social media expert like yourself. So thank you for joining us.
Just thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Thank you to everybody who listened to us.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much.